The Memoirs of a Student in Manila was written by Dr. Jose Rizal when he was 17 to 20 years old from 1879 to 1881. It denotes the reminiscence of his childhood and student life along with his joys and misfortune. Chapter 3 from January, 1871 to June, 1872.
I don't know how to describe to you my past days. I would not have been able to furnish you with anything notable had not something occurred that was truly unpleasant and sad that I could not forget it. A few days after my arrival in my town, it was decided to make me stay there and send me to Manila later. During this time my uncle, Jose Alberto, arrived from Europe. He found his house empty and his children abandoned 2 or 3 days before by his wife, Teodora Formoso. He found her and thought of divorcing her, but at my mother's pleading, he agreed to live with her again. A few days later the infamous woman, in connivance with a lieutenant of the civil guard, accused her husband of being a poisoner and my mother as his accomplice, for which my mother was imprisoned by Mr. Antonio Vivencio del Rosario, a fanatical mayor, a servant of the friar. We were 9 brothers and sisters and our mother was unjustly snatched away from us. We learned later that our mother got sick, far from us and at an advanced age. Afterward, they made her confess what they wanted her to confess, promising to release her and to let her see her children if she would say what they wanted her to say. My mother, like all mothers, deceived and frightened, submitted to the will of her enemies and weakened. The mayor himself asked my mother for pardon, but when the case was already in the Supreme Court, he asked for forgiveness because he suffered remorse and he was horrified by his vileness. My mother was defended by Messrs. Francisco de Marqueda and Manuel Marzan, the most famous lawyers of Manila. She finally succeeded to be acquitted and vindicated in the eyes of her judges, accusers, and even her enemies, but after how long? After 2.5 years. In the meantime, they discussed my career and they decided that I should go to Manila with my brother Pisciana to take the entrance examinations and study the secondary course at the Ateneo Municipal. I, therefore, went down to Manila on June 10, 1872. And took an examination on the Christian doctrine, arithmetic, and reading at the College of San Juan de Letran. They gave me a grade of approved, and with this I returned to my hometown happy, having for the first time experienced what examinations were.
Chapter 4, 1872 to 1875.
I was introduced at the Ateneo Municipal to the Reverend Father Magin Ferrando. At first, he did not want to admit me either because I had come after the period of admission was over or because of my rather weak constitution and short stature. But later, at the request of Manuel Zires Burgos, nephew of the ill-fated Father Burgos and now licentiate in medicine, the difficulties were removed and I was admitted. After Mass, I went to class where I saw a great number of children, Spaniards, Mestizos, and Filipinos, and a Jesuit who was the professor. He was called Father Jose Bech. Among my classmates, Florencio Gavino Oliva had an excellent mind but was of ordinary studiousness. One Joaquin Garrido, a Spanish mestizo, with poor memory but bright and studious. Resembling him very much was one Moises Santiago, mathematician and penman. One Gonzalo Marzano then occupied the canopied throne of the Roman emperor. In the Jesuit colleges, they put up 2 empires, one Roman and the other Carthaginian of Greek, in which the highest positions were won through challenges, the winner being the one who made 3 mistakes less than his rival. A month later I was already emperor. Ah, how happy I was when for the first time I got a religious print for a prize. In the first quarter, I won first prize with a grade of excellent, but I was disgusted on account of some words uttered by my professor. At the end of the year, to my misfortune, I obtained only a grade of excellent without getting any first prize. I spent my vacation in my hometown. I went to visit my mother and told her that I received access it with delight. I surprised her. When vacation was over, I had to return to Manila to enroll in the second-year course. Nothing extraordinary happened to me this year, for my professor was the same as the one last year. At the end of the year, I won a medal and I returned to my hometown and visited my mother. But this time I began to devote myself in my leisure hours to reading novels. Under the pretext that I had to study universal history, I importuned my father to buy me Cesare Cantu's work. God alone knows the benefit I got from its perusal, for despite my average studiousness and my little practice in the Castilian tongue, in the following year I was able to win prizes in the quarterly examinations and I would have won the medal were it not for some mistakes in Spanish, that unfortunately, I spoke badly. My mother was not delayed in coming out free, acquitted, and vindicated, and as soon as she was out she came to embrace me. I wept. My family resolved to put me in college as a boarder. Indeed, it was the time when I was giving very little attention to my studies. I was already approaching 13 years and I had not yet made any brilliant showing to my classmates. Until here lasted my happiest days, though short, but what does it matter if they were short?
Rizal's pursuit of education and knowledge has opened his eyes to the bigotry and injustice of the world around him. Growing up, he became interested to understand and learn the logic of mathematics, write poems, draw, sculpt and paint. One of the biggest influences in Rizal's decision to become a political activist is the unjust arrest of his mother. It was the moment he started seeing and experiencing, for himself, the injustices in the country, and this inspired him to fight for the liberty of his nation.